Hey guys, this is MusicTechHelpGuy, and welcome to part 19 of my pop rock mixing series in Logic Pro 10. In this video, we're going to be building some transitions between some of the different sections in our song, and I'm going to try to, and they're nothing really too complicated, but we're going to try to emulate the transitions that were in the original song. So the very first thing we're going to do is actually less of a transition and more just an editing thing. In between the first bridge and first chorus, the second bridge and the second chorus, when the pickup notes on the chorus come in, they sound like this. We're just so magical. The "we're just so" in the original version of the song is only in the lead vocals. So we've got this harmony up here too. Here, let me just pull these harmonies down. And we've got the low vocals down here too. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use the marquee tool, and then I'm going to turn off my snap grid. There we go. And then I'm just going to use the marquee tool and just cut out everything before the word magical. So we end up with... We're just so magical, because that's the way the original song is. So we'll do that, and we'll drag over these. I'm going to hold Shift and Control just to add a fade to all of that. And then we're going to do the same thing. Whoops. We're going to do the same thing for the second chorus. This is less of a, like I said, it's less of a transition, more of just an editing thing that needs to be done. So drag over all these. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Drag over all these. We'll hold Shift Control. Now, this is one of those weird glitches. I still can't figure out why Logic does this, but when you drag over multiple clips and try to fade, it should fade all of them, and I have no clue why. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You just saw it over there; it worked fine. So here's the second chorus. Now the third chorus in the original song, all of the voices do come in with her after the guitar solo. So that one we're gonna leave in. So that's the first thing. The second thing is there in the original song. There's a bit of like a stutter effect. A very subtle stutter effect and reverse cymbal leading into the leading out of the chorus, rather, in between the chorus and the synth break, as well as in between the second chorus and the guitar solo. So just so you can hear this in the original song, let me just reference that up here. This is where the break in the original song. So you can hear there's like sort of like a backwards cymbal swell, and there's also like this just very subtle stutter effect. Now, I'll be honest, the way I did that is I used a plugin from iZotope called Stutter Edit. I love the plugin, but it's like $200. So we're going to try to mimic that sound. We're not going to get it exactly the same, but we're going to try to mimic that sound just using stock Logic plugins. So I'll let you know what I did there. Basically, it's not the vocals that are being stuttered, it's the vocal reverb that is being stuttered. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create two new audio tracks. And what we're going to do with these tracks is one of them is going to be our vocal stutter, and the other is going to be our reverse cymbal. So let me just do one thing here. I'm going to take the input off of these so my voice doesn't come through them. There we go. And this one's going to be the vocal stutter. This one's going to be the reversed cymbal. And then what we're going to do is we're going to transfer down the reverb signal from this aux track down to this audio track so we can work with it separately. So what I'm going to do, because I want to hear the stutter plus the reverb at the same time. I don't want to apply the stutter to the entire vocal verb channel. So what we're going to do is we're going to find an available send that we can bus down to this vocal stutter track. Let's put it in stereo first. And then from what I recall, bus 13 is open. It's not being used. So you choose bus 13 as the input. And then from the Vox verb, I'm going to create a send. And we're going to choose bus 13. As you can see, it's open there. And we're going to option click on the send amount to set that all the way up to 0. So we're recording full volume reverb down to the vocal stutter track. So all we have to do is arm that track and hit record. All right, so let's get rid of that send now. We don't need that anymore, that bus. I'm going to change the input on this track back over to no input. And it doesn't look like much right now, but if we zoom in on it, you'll see that there is some signal there. Let me just set the locators around this. And let's solo that and listen to it. So the only point we really need to work with is between 69, or actually it's really 70 and 71 is the part we're working with. So I'm just going to use the marquee tool to kind of trim that up. I'm leaving a little extra on the left and right just to kind of fade it. And so that's what we'll do, is put like a little bit of a fade here and a little bit of a fade here. And so now we have just a little tiny little clip of reverb there. The other thing is I want this track to be quite a bit louder. So what I'm going to do is click on the clip, go up here and show my region parameters if they're not already shown. You can just click on the little down arrow and go to gain here, and this controls the clip gain of that track. So it's double click, and I want to bump it up by about 6 dB. So let's give that a shot. There we go. All right. So the way we're going to achieve this stutter effect without stutter edit is we're going to use, under modulation, the tremolo effect. Tremolo is essentially a pulsing of volume. So if you set it up right, you can create, stuttering effects with it. Let's just loop just the locators. Now this is a panning stutter effect, or a panning tremolo effect. Let me just pull this, make this a little bigger so you can hear that or see that better. And what we're going to do is we're going to put both channels in phase, because right now one's going up while one's going down. So on the right channel, we're going to double click on the phase here and set that to 0. So now we're perfectly in phase. But it's not quite fast enough, nor is it stuttery enough. So let's change the rate to like a 16th note. And let's pull the smoothing down so it's not so, well, smooth. There we go. Now, the way the Stutter Edit plugin worked is it actually sort of, the stuttering got a little bit faster toward the tail end of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to automate the rate of the stutter. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to hit A to pull up automation. We're also going to make sure this time, instead of using track automation, we use region automation, because that saves the automation to the individual region or clip. So if when we copy and paste this clip elsewhere, the automation automatically goes with it. So from our automation parameters here, we're going to click on that, go up to tremolo, and then from tremolo, we're going to go to rate. And you'll see, we can see our rate of a 16th note kind of grayed out there. So let's click on the line. And then this is essentially where the synth break comes in, right at measure 71. So this bar is where it needs to be the fastest. So let's click there. Let's also go ahead and turn on division for our snap mode. I'm going to make sure that snap automation is on as well. So my automation points snap to the grid. Just like so. And then I really want a 16th note really through the first 2 beats. So let's click here. And then let's pull this up so we get up to about a 32nd note. Let's see what that sounds like. So what's happening is we're automating the rate of the tremolo. Just slightly. The other thing is I want the tremolo to kind of get louder as we ease into the synth break toward the tail end of the transition. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go back to the volume. And again, we're going to use region based automation here. Click on the line. Click here right at the tail end. Let's actually snap that. There we go. And then let's pull that up because I want this to get louder as we get into the transition. All right, so that's the first part. Now, the second part is this reverse cymbal. This is pretty simple to do. You can go find a cymbal sample if you want, but I'm just going to use the recording that we have. If we go to the very end of the song, you'll recall that we end on that crash cymbal that we choked with automation in the previous, or one of the previous videos. So I'm going to go down to the overhead track here, the overhead mics. It's a stereo pair of some sort of mic. I can't remember what we used. And I'm just going to copy out the very, very last cymbal crash, because as you recall, there were 2 cymbal crashes. So with my snap mode on and marquee tool, I'm going to drag over just that last crash and hit Command C to copy. Then I'm going to go up to that reverse cymbal track up here, and we're going to paste it right in, just like so. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to print this down to a new clip. The way you can do that is you can just right click and you can say bounce in place, or you can hit Control B. If you don't see bounce in place up here, it means that you haven't used it yet, so you can go down to bounce and join and then say bounce in place. You can use join or join per track, which is J or Command J, but here's the problem with it. If I hit J, nothing happens because there aren't 2 clips to join. And if I hit Command J, it also doesn't work because there aren't 2 clips to join. So that's one of those features I wish Logic would have. I wish I could bounce in place without having to create another track, because it pulls up this whole dialogue. I hit OK, and it prints that clip down to a new track down here, and I have a duplicate of it, which I really don't want to have. So I also made a mistake there. I'm glad I caught that. And I want to make sure that that track is in stereo, not in mono. That one's in stereo. So let's reprint that again. Control B, just hit OK. Prints it down to a new track as its own thing. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to make a new clip out of the cymbals. I don't want to make a clip out of the cymbals where, like, if I edit something up here where it might change something down here. Sometimes that happens. We'd probably be okay if I didn't do that, but sometimes when you toy with the original file, sometimes it messes with the original file. So if you get what I'm saying. So I'm going to click on the clip, go over to the region parameters again, and we're going to go down to this reverse button. This is something new that they added in, I think it was 10.1, and it just flips the clip. It reverses the clip, which is really cool because you used to have to go down to the file editor, the track editor, or whatever, and flip that clip. So I'm just going to kind of trim off the tail end of the clip here. There we go. I'm going to turn off my grid and just kind of fade this last little section here. So what we end up with is, with the stutter and the reverse cymbal, something like this. Now this cymbal doesn't need to be nearly that loud. It can be a lot softer. One thing we're going to do is we're going to take out, with the channel EQ, we're going to take out quite a bit of the low end in it. So let's pull this high pass filter up to about 500 or so. And the other thing I want to do, I'm going to trim this up a little bit more. I'm going to put pretty long fade on it. Let's just drag over both of these and hit set locators again. There we go. And I really think that stutter needs to be even louder now I think about it. Let's add like 12 dB gain to it. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that volume automation went away. I must have accidentally hit undo or something. There we go, much better. And then on the reverse cymbal, I'm also going to add some reverb to it. So let me just go under Space Designer here. And let's try large spaces, plates. Let's try the big plate. Let's see what that one sounds like. We'll pull the reverb signal up quite a bit. There we go. So let's see what that sounds like with everything in. And let's see if it's somewhat close to the original. Again, without stutter edit, we're not going to get it exactly like the original, but we can get it kind of close to the same effect. Cool, I think that's close enough. What we're going to do is we need to copy and paste this over to the in between the second chorus and the guitar solo. So Probably the best way to do this is going to be to drag over both of these, change your snap mode to bar mode, and then make sure that you're in the relative grid, snap regions to relative value, so that when we drag this over, it maintains its position, its relative position on the grid. So I'm going to hold Option and drag over, just like so, and it duplicates. And then we'll just sort of put it in between the second chorus and the guitar solo, just like so. So let's just double check that and make sure it's in the right spot. It sure is. And let's listen to that and make sure that sounds okay. All right, so as you'll recall in the previous video, we added a sort of like filter sweep to the clean keys and the guitars in between the first and second bridges and the first and second choruses, and it sounded something like this. In the second time around in the original song, there's actually something else in between the second bridge and the second chorus. It's the same for the first chorus. It's as is for the first chorus, but for the second chorus, it actually sounds something like this. So there's like these drums that kick in, and actually now that I think about it, that filter sweep that we added in before, in the other song, the original mix, sounds like this cut goes down quite a bit deeper. So let's actually pull that automation from 18 down to 500 hertz. There we go. So we'll just make that filter just a little bit deeper. Basically what I did was to create this drum transition is I borrowed a very basic drum beat from the first part of the song. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to go find the drum bus that we created before, the drum submaster here, and I'm going to create a new audio track. Option Command N if you want to use the key command for it. And I'm just going to call this drum transition. I'm going to make the input on it a bus, so we used 13 before, so let's use 14 now. I guess we could use 13 anyway because we're not using it anymore. Let's make this stereo. And on the drums, we are going to, on a send out to bus 14. There we go. Hold Option to set the send all the way up. What we're going to do is we're going to transfer a bit of the drums from the beginning of the song over to this audio track, and then just grab a little 2-bar spot to paste over in that transition. So I'm just going to arm the drum transition track, hit record, and it's going to print over. All right, that's probably enough. Sorry, I forgot to mute the reference track. I'm going to take the bus off of there. We don't need that anymore. The input can just be no input again. And let's solo this, and let's just find a spot that we want to loop. I think it was basically this part right here. There was no cymbal crash on it. So let's just cut that out. And let's go move this over to the second chorus here. I'm going to move the drum transition kind of up more by the keys, just because that's where the other part of the transition is. And let's see what that sounds like with everything in. Yeah, I think it might be this second half, actually. Yep, just like that. Now, the effect that I put on the drum transition is sort of this like overly compressed pumping effect with a lot of reverb and a filter sweep. So we're gonna have to add all of that to it. So let's start with the compression. So let's go to Dynamics, add the compressor. And let's try to find a preset. I think there's one that's like pumping drums or just sort of like overly compressed. Let's try, here we go, VCA. Let's try smashed. Let's see what that sounds like. Turn down the gain a bit. There you go. It's got that sort of boomy, dirty loop sound. And then I'm going to add some reverb to it as well. Use Space Designer. And then we're going to grab the plate. Let's try just the drum plate again. There we go. So the way I did this transition for the drums is I threw an EQ after the compression and the reverb, and what I did is I kicked in both filters. I kicked in both the low pass filter and the high pass filter, and then sort of automated both of them out. So the filter kind of opens up gradually. So it sort of starts like that. So then it opens up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these to sort of like a starting value. We're going to hit A, pull up automation, change our automation value from volume to the channel EQ, and we're going to start with the high cut frequency. And let's go ahead and put this on region based just to make this look a little nicer. So region based, channel EQ, high cut. There we go. And we're just going to pull this up. I don't want it completely open, but pretty close to being open. It's like 12,000 is fine. And then we'll choose the low cut frequency. There it is, low cut frequency. And this one is going to go down. So it's filtering out the bottom end, and then we're adding the bottom end back in. Just like so. So now when we watch this, if we look at the channel EQ while this plays, it sort of opens up. So let's see what this sounds like with everything in the mix. Let's try putting the reverb after the EQ and see if that sounds any better. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. The only other thing we need to do is I can sort of hear a little pop or click in there just because of we just edited it like a loop. So I'm just gonna, turning the snap mode off, I'm just gonna pull out the end of this and fade in the beginning a little bit, and then fade out the ending just a touch. And that should get rid of that popping sound at the beginning there. Yeah, it's still kind of popping a little bit. Let's see what that's a result of. Let's pull back the automation. Let's pull back this automation as well. All right, so those are our two main transitions in the song. There's the drum transition and then the little stutter transition. In the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to build the intro to the song, which really is going to require its own video on its own. It's not something I can tag onto a transition video like this, because it took a lot of work to make that intro sound the way it does. It's going to take even more work to make that intro sound the way it close enough to the original without using some of the plugins that I use to make it. So that's what we're going to do in the next video, and then after that we'll move on to some final mix revisions, and then after that we'll move on to mastering. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.